Yeah. All right. We've got a good little group here gathered in person. We'll also have more online, and then I know a lot of folks are watching the recording as well. So Reverend Andy Black, I'm an associate pastor here at First Presbyterian Church and also the founder of Earth Keepers. And work as the National Wildlife Federation Public Lands Director. So I have the esteemed honor of introducing our two guest speakers today. Liz Houston, got it right on the last name. So yes, Liz Houston from our Denver office, our Rocky Mountain Regional Center up in Denver for the National Wildlife Federation, and with the Early Childhood Healthy Outdoors program, ECHO, as it's kind of short known for. He's going to be talking a little bit about their work and appearance supplies. And then we've got Manja Holland, who is really gracious, who's joined us off of vacation for today. It's going to be talking about kind of the gardening for wildlife and some of the work that they're doing as part of the Sacred Grounds work that they work with faith communities all over the country on how to kind of use their grounds to be more wildlife friendly and be great gardeners. So want to welcome Liz and Manja. I'm really grateful. Thank you all for joining today. I'm really grateful for your all's participation with the faith communities. And we'll be able to provide this live stream not only to our listserv at Earth Keepers, but also put it out on the First Presbyterian Church's website. So you're going to have a much bigger audience than what you just see in the room. Obviously, the recording people will watch it after, but also be able to promote it through those two venues as well down the road. So want to welcome you all and hand things over to you, Liz. Well, I guess we'll start with you and talking about the work you do and also some of the work you've done here in Santa Fe or Argo.
That's right. Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So bear with me for just a minute. All right. Can you all see that first screen? Great. Thank you so much. Andrew, thank you so much for this warm welcome. It's really a joy to be here today to talk to you about some initiatives at the Early Childhood Health Outdoors. Excuse me. Let me get this where I need it to be. Again, my name is Liz, and I am Deputy Director of Early Childhood Health Outdoors, which is an initiative of the National Wildlife Federation. I want to stop right there and make sure you all can hear me. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. Yes. So I'm going to talk about our initiative and why we focus on connecting young children to nature and the outdoors. And then I'll show you some of the work and what it looks like on the ground. And then I'll turn things over to my colleague, Manja. And please be thinking of questions as we walk through these conversations. We'd love to answer any questions you might have at the end of our presentation. So as Andrew mentioned, Early Childhood Health Outdoors is an initiative of the National Wildlife Federation that began in Colorado in 2017. And we envision every young child experiencing nature daily for the health of our kids, our communities, and our planet. And more specifically, this work is about ensuring that young children have equitable access to nature in the spaces where they spend time daily. And so most often we work with childcare programs and other early care and education settings because we know that many young children spend time and many of their days in these spaces. And taking a little step back, National Wildlife Federation, who we all work for, Andrew, Manja, and myself, we believe that in order to save both wildlife and ourselves, we need to ensure that all people have access to clean air and water, safe communities, easy and equitable access to nature, and protection from the ravages of climate change. And so aligned with this mission, ECHO works to connect our youngest children to nature and healthy spaces. And we believe this focus is especially important because we know that children who have access to quality outdoor experiences grow up into adults who care about wildlife and our environment. And another reason that ECHO focuses on early childhood is because some of the most important development takes place from birth to age 5. This is really a critical time in a child's life, and providing them with engaging and enriching outdoor experiences supports healthy development. We'll go into a little bit of detail there. We all know that nature is good for us, right? Research has proven that again and again, and it's especially good for young children. When children spend time in quality outdoor settings, guided by the adults who care for them, they are more physically active, and their social emotional health is enhanced too. And when they are engaged in gardening and help grow fruits and vegetables themselves, they are more likely to try those new foods. And so they enjoy better nutrition. So taking a little deeper dive, many of us know these benefits, but what gets lost in talking about outdoor environments quite often is the opportunity to move beyond that physical health and that physical activity and look at that social emotional health. At this young age, children are starting to develop their self-regulation skills and testing their limits in a healthy, developmentally appropriate way. And we want the environment set up for them to do that. And many traditional childcare settings often have items that are fixed in place. But with things like loose parts and movable objects, children can work together to move things from place to place. And this action really helps them build positive relationships with each other. Building self-esteem. We love this photograph of this little girl jumping off the rock. And the story here is that she's also teaching her friends to do the same thing. So all of them are becoming more confident, and obviously they're communicating with each other. In addition, young children learn how to cope when something doesn't work out, right? Children try to affect their environment in a good way. And sometimes those experiments don't always work out in their favor. It's really important that they have these lessons. And these lessons can come from these more diverse, more natural environments. That mastery and challenge and appropriate risk-taking are really important for children. And these environments help make those things happen. So where do we work again? ECHO, again, our vision is to bring nature to where children spend time daily. So we work with childcare programs because we know that more than 12 million children younger than age 5 are in some sort of childcare in the United States. But we also work with the K-12 system, and we work in community spaces like libraries and parks and museums because we know often that children who are cared for by family or friends or neighbors, they spend time in these public spaces too. So what does ECHO do exactly? We advocate, we empower, and we transform. And I'll break all of these down here. Our approach really includes advocating for systems change. Quite often these outdoor spaces are an afterthought. We believe all children have the right to access nature daily, and we see this work as a health equity strategy because there are too many kids who do not have easy access to healthy, dynamic outdoor spaces. And I know Manja is going to talk a little bit more about that. In addition, we empower adults to engage young children outdoors by providing training and resources. And we help transform outdoor spaces by providing low or no cost landscape design services to help partners enhance their outdoor settings. So we work with organizations and their communities to both design and activate, and I'm going to get back to the advocacy piece here in a minute. But community engagement, I want to say, is really critical to our work. It's threaded throughout the entire process. With each project, ECHO uses a tailored, stakeholder-driven process designed to bring our partners' vision to life. It is not our vision, it's their vision, and we just help bring it to life. And we want to complement local efforts that may already be in progress. We know there's a lot of great work that's happening across the country already. So our design process, our landscape design process, includes analyzing existing conditions of a site, working with the community at a workshop to design the site and bring their vision to life. We produce a final schematic plan, and we develop a cost estimate and an action plan that guides site changes over time. And a huge part of our work really entails providing partners with examples of the various kinds of settings that can be included in an outdoor learning environment. Quite often people just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's possible out there. They don't know how to get started. And these can look like, opportunities to make music outdoors, or natural construction settings, or cozy gathering places for young children. And our activation support includes providing professional development opportunities for educators and early childhood directors, early childhood coaches, other early childhood specialists, and also engaging families and volunteers to get involved with building and maintaining these sites. And we also provide ongoing technical assistance and resources to help the sustainability of these sites. And this is all a very iterative process. And like I said, there's a lot of stakeholder engagement that helps really shape the final plan. So going back to the first part of our approach, that advocacy piece, we very much see our work as a movement, not so much a program. And to bolster this movement, we do things like partner with national think tanks. We did so with New America a few years ago to develop a series of policy recommendations to really build outdoor learning opportunities that help children thrive. And so these recommendations are meant to help both state leaders and federal leaders promote healthy child development and support the early childhood workforce and enhance health equity in communities. And I could do a whole presentation on this, but these resources are available on our website if you're interested in learning more. And as Andrew said, we are based in Colorado, but we are growing and we have projects across the country, including in New Mexico. We are currently partnering to create a nature play area at the Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge in Albuquerque. It's a really exciting project. I could do a whole presentation on that as well. But we've also worked with the Santa Fe Children's Museum, and our team has attended and presented at several New Mexico early childhood conferences and meetings. And so I'm happy to follow up with anyone who wants to hear more details about our work in your state. And so I just want to show you a few examples of what these transformations look like. This is the good stuff here. So this is a before and after picture. This early childhood education center in suburban Denver. It's in a strip mall. It's built over a parking lot. This infant space on the left was really difficult to get to. It wasn't level with the entryway. Teachers literally had to lift the babies up and over past the babies to get to it. And adults couldn't even stand up straight under these shade sails. So obviously they didn't go out there very often. And it provided very few opportunities for babies and toddlers to engage with nature. So we worked with the educators to really reimagine the space. We created a design that made it much more accessible, made it level with the rest of the site. We included this center deck and a sensory garden. You can't see it very well. It's in the back. Those include plants that are safe for babies to touch and feel and smell. New fencing. There's a beautiful pergola for shade, a storage area, an acoustic wall. And so now children and their teachers are spending much more time out there, and they do so in all seasons because it accommodates that. This is a program in Canyon City, Colorado. You can see what a beautiful transformation that's taken place, again, resulting in more time outdoors. And of course, this process enhanced the overall environmental quality of the space, the drainage. It's greener in the summer. It invites birds and pollinators. And it's really much more dynamic throughout all the seasons. I also want to say that often these childcare centers have traditional play equipment, of course, and often it's very expensive equipment, and that's great. But we really encourage programs to think about variety and choice for children. I can't say that enough. And things like these tire planters are so easy. They're just at children's height. They bring so much color and, again, pollinators to the space. And of course, with any gardening activity, children learn how to care for living things. And that is a really important life skill. Also, we're increasingly working with home-based or family childcare providers, even in these smaller spaces. And this particular space is not small, it's really quite large, but you can provide children with choices and opportunities to use their imaginations and their creativity. And often these efforts include small incremental changes over time. This is not about extreme playground makeover. I just visited this home the other day, and the owner started working on her space years ago. This didn't happen all at once, and she continues to make enhancements to the space. And like I said, we also work in public parks. This is a beautiful park in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, another metro suburb. And you can see, you don't see any traditional play equipment here, but kids have an amazing time. There's lots of seating, beautiful winding paths, lots of nature to explore. So I invite you to visit our website to learn more about our work. We have a lot of resources there. There are a lot of how-to guides. There's a document called Nature Play at Home for families, for those home-based providers, childcare providers. All of these resources are available in both English and Spanish. And then again, on our website, we host a variety of trainings. We offer at least one free webinar each month, and anyone is invited to join us. And here's my here's a quote I just want to end with. Just as children need sufficient sleep and nutritious food, they need contact with nature. And here's my contact information. And now I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Manja.
Liz, do you mind if we just ask you a few questions before we kind of jump?
No, please do.
So curious to hear from you all about your questions, but would you talk a little bit about, so if, say, our childhood development center or another entity approached you, how does it work? I mean, do they have to pay anything? What do you all provide? How does all that, what are the kind of nuts and bolts?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So we work sort of in two models. When we have foundation support, we primarily get most of our funding from foundations, from grants. When those funds are available, we often have an application process, or we'll work with a group of providers to provide small startup grants that sort of kick off the process. The other model is a fee-for-service model. So if programs have funding, we can provide very low-cost design and professional development services, obviously much less than a professional firm would. But we're always looking to collaborate, to raise funds. We help programs think about community engagement and local sources of funding to make this work happen. And it can happen at very small scales. We can think about small implementation grants. Quite often, childcare centers receive funding from the state. Obviously, if they're licensed, there are quality improvement dollars. There's a lot of capacity building funding that's coming, of course, from states right now. Early childhood is all over the news right now. New Mexico's early childhood system is all over the news because it's been a real model for transforming and supporting the whole early childhood landscape. Your governor and Secretary Gerginski are doing amazing work. So all this to say, we don't have current funding right now to support sites with implementation grants, but it's an ongoing process. That's part of my job, is to fundraise. Andrew, we have a backbone of philanthropy here at the National Wildlife Federation. We have a lot of resources to seek out those funds, but also we can be hired on a consultancy basis. And as capacity and our schedule allows, we can work with sites on a fee-based service. We're always welcome to have those exploratory conversations to see where people are and how we might join forces and support folks.
And you all in your initial services will work with the community, and you have architects that design these things. I mean, it goes through kind of, really a specialized process of, how do we look at the space? How do we look at the structural integrity? Have the architects to do all that, right?
Very much so. Yeah. We'll find the folks who do the implementation. We take it up to the design phase where it can be handed off to a construction company or a local landscape architect who can actually implement the site. But it's amazing how much can be done when you engage families. Families know somebody who can pour concrete. Families quite often love to get out their power tools and build those pergolas. There's funding for shade sales through the National Association of Dermatologists. So people get very creative very often, and we can help make those connections and get that energy going. in-kind gifts. You know, we have so many folks who just go to their local gardening center, especially this time of year, right? For perennials and bulbs to get things in the ground at a very low cost, or to, you know, they get materials donated and plants and seeds donated. So there's a lot that can happen at a very low cost. And we're more than happy to help explore those ideas and those opportunities.
Liz, last question, and then I want to hand it down. Carmichael's got a question. Tell us about the work you guys have done with like rooftop playgrounds. You know, our playgrounds, for example, are on the second floor. That maybe poses different opportunities and challenges. What does that look like?
You know, I don't know that we've worked on a rooftop, but it's certainly a huge topic of conversation as more.
But want to open it up to you all for any kind of questions around the sacred grounds. Harry and Jenny they were in Cleveland previously to serving this church. Were pastors in Cleveland. Or a pastor, Jenny's a pastor as well, to serving churches in Cleveland and actually all over kind of the Midwest. So I think would be also really good context for you all and some of that network that could help deepen your network. But Harry, do you want to say anything about the Guns Gardens or any of this other?
Well, just to clarify, Guns and Gardens, it started as an idea really kind of out of my office down the hallway, where we thought we could take what, you know, something that's destructive and cold like a gun and do something with it. And that's where the gardens comes in, with the making garden tools out of it. And so it became Guns and Gardens that way. But then from that point on, people are being creative all across the country to say, what else can we do with this? I mean, we'll make all sorts of things out of it. And it's gone to musical instruments, and it's gone to art pieces. And we have youth in Albuquerque at one of the hardest schools to deal with a lot of issues these kids are dealing with, and they're the ones transforming these things into vases. And you know, just it's remarkable. And it's not only the change of a gun, it's the change of a person and change of a community. And so that's why it's so beautiful when I see these pictures of gardens transforming, you know, Cleveland, thank goodness, Detroit, Toledo, thank goodness that's going on. And as you say, it makes such a big difference. So thank you for your good work. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Manja.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much. And thank you for what you've launched. I mean, that is just so inspiring. And I actually saw a garden that was part of a sort of Guns to Gardens movement in Toledo, where they had transformed a gun into a shovel and planted a tree in a community garden in remembrance of a particular victim in that community of gun violence. And extremely moving and just really impactful. So yeah, thank you.
Wow, that brings tears to your eyes. And think
yeah, it does.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and so Manja, just for this church, but also the larger audience that will be able to reach recording. You know, if congregations want to get involved or already have done some of this work, want to get certified, how do they do that? How does that work? You're on mute, sorry.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted myself. You can go to our website, www.nwf.org/sacred grounds, all just run together. And if you go there, there's some resources, and there's also a link to be able to designate your site if you meet the criteria. There's kind of a simple application. You can find information on the website about that. And then you'll receive a certificate that you've designated, and also happy for folks to reach out to me if you're interested in having a metal sign to display.
And there's no cost to being certified or anything like that?
No, there's no cost. No, we've been really intentional about making sure there's no cost. And I also try to get folks signs at no cost as well. So, yeah.
And kind of the last question along those lines is, you know, one of the things that Harry and I were just talking about is we have an interesting kind of courtyard space. And I think I was really struck by what you're saying about designing areas for kind of prayer and meditation and stuff like that. And we have a fair amount of people that come to the downtown area that kind of like to sit in that area. I've noticed to have lunch, just kind of be there on their lunch break. Some of the teachers, even from our preschool. So I'm curious as to, you all work with congregations on kind of designing those more specific places. Because right now it's just kind of bricks and some chairs.
Yeah, so we on our team, so it's myself and I have two other team members, one of whom is based in Detroit and one of whom is based in Cleveland. We do not have design expertise on our team, so that is part of why we have local partners that we work with to sort of perform that function. And what we do is we do a lot of grant writing. So we're pretty good at bringing in funds, and then we pass a lot of those funds through to our community partners, which also then supports those local organizations. So our team doesn't have specific design expertise, unfortunately, but Liz's team could potentially help you with the design piece.
Yeah, that'd be good, because we're also working to try to get, I mean, a lot of our kids go through those areas, right, as they go to there's a federal park that's, you know, a couple blocks down from where we are, and that's, a lot of times they'll take the kids over to that park to play, right, but it's an opportunity to maybe do something a little bit more, and it's the front entry of the church, really, so there might be some really good opportunities to think across, you know, and I love how you are collaborating across, you know, departments in NWF and regions, and you know how all that goes, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more. We've got a big project in Washington, D.C. right now. In fact, a lot of our design team was out there working in a very urban context, right? Primarily with these home-based providers who are in, you know, row houses. There's just not a lot of space in their backyard. And so they're, you know, hopefully they can access the nearby park. And so a lot of what we think about is how to safely transport children, you know, how to get them from point A to point B and access those parks. And hopefully those parks have support and resources to stay safe and clean and have age appropriate play equipment and some nature in there. So that's a, you know, a nationwide challenge, right? We're trying to bring nature into the spaces where children spend time daily, but sometimes those spaces are really small. Sometimes they just don't accommodate lots of physical activity. And so thinking about bigger issues, and we're connected to lots of networks, just like Sacred Grounds is thinking about, there's an organization called Cities Connecting Children to Nature, which is part of the Urban League of Cities. There is the Children in Nature Network, which is exactly that. It's a huge network of organizations. They just had their big conference here in Colorado. So lots of people doing very creative thinking and very creative work in all of these different contexts, in all of these very highly urban areas, very dry deserts. We just pulled together some resources specifically for childcare programs in Texas, where it's just dangerous to be outdoors in the middle of the day because the temperatures are so extreme. Play equipment gets so hot that it's dangerous. And so how can you get creative? The challenge of action, of climate action and climate change is something we all face. And it has a disproportionate impact on young children and pregnant people, and especially children of color and those living in marginalized communities. So everybody needs to put their thinking caps on, and people are getting incredibly creative. But I mean, I just saw on my phone, Hurricane Hillary is bearing down. You know, all of these issues are just going to almost seem to be happening daily. And so I think strength in numbers, Manja, that I was just reading through all the organizations on your slide and all the partnerships there, is really, it's inspiring, and it brings me hope.
Well, and Liz, I'm really grateful that you're looking at that in these, you know, hotter southwestern places. I mean, one of the big challenges a lot of kids here at South, yeah, they have playgrounds, but there's not coverings and the equipment's too hot. So they go down the slide and they burn themselves, and then they don't go back, and their parents don't want to take them there. And that's a huge challenge I know we're dealing with in this city, but also across New Mexico. And then we work with a lot of congregations in Arizona, Utah, and, you know, Colorado that we're starting to run into a lot of that, where they may have some of the typical playground equipment, but there's not enough nature space and there's not enough covering to even use it for the majority of the time you want to be outside. And then in the wintertime in those places, it also gets really cold.
Right.
So, you know, there's like a limited window in the spring and the fall, and that's something as a parent, you know, we're definitely running into with our daughter Brooke. It's like, where do you take these kids in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day, and they're cooped up? And so you got to find that. So I'm really grateful you all are looking at that, and that's going to be important. And any of those resources that you want us to share not only through this church, but through Earthly First, so we'd love to, man. Same thing with you, Manja, anything we can do on that. And then last thing I wanted to mention is Carmichael is also a member of ECHO and one of their leaders for ECHO, so Hispanics Enjoying Camping and Hunting Outdoors, which is also kind of an initiative of National Wildlife Federation. And has been a really big leader with ECHO too, so it's really good to have him on. I wanted him to see some of the full breadth and depth of NWF and some of these other programs and how he can work with ECHO and also hear on some of the work we're doing in Santa Fe. Cool. Anyone else have anything? Well, wonderful. Thank you all. I know you're in, some monitor different time zone. Took some time out of your vacation. Really, really great. I'll make sure that you also, particularly Manja, you have Pastor Harry's contact, because I think he'll be a really good resource for you in the Midwest.
That'd be great.
And the Guns and Garden stuff, there might be a really cool nexus there. That's what I'm really glad that you meet you all.
I would love to connect more on that. That'd be fantastic. Yep.
Great.
And then Liz, love to have you down anytime, but also to work with, I mentioned to Liz the opportunity to work with Ann Liley and the CDC and their teachers to talk about, and it could just be the small improvements to those spaces, like those little flower, tire pieces that I could see that on the deck up there. And I think there's some opportunity there just to do some really, cool thinking up there. So
Yeah, please connect us. Happy to have the conversation, share resources, see how we might collaborate.
Well, very good. Well, thank you all for your time and really appreciate it. And so we'll send, and then I'll be able to send you all this recording too. And you can feel free to share that in any way, and we'll put that all out. So
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.